90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. 3 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. And I want to thank all of my listening and viewing audience from the Pioneer Valley. And of course, you can listen live on WTCCFM.org. Also streaming live on all of our platforms at Talbert Swan. And man, a powder keg went off between the last time I was on the spoken word and now. And so a lot to talk about. Justice for George Floyd in the middle of civil unrest across America with literally major American cities burning from coast to coast. The response from the alleged commander-in-chief was to threaten to shoot protesters, not to implore people for calm, not to calm fears, not to commit to fight systemic racism, which was the catalyst for these protests in the first place, not to bring the country together, but to threaten to sick vicious dogs on protesters, to brag about how badly hurt they would be if they had gotten through the White House fence, and to threaten to send the National Guard to shoot them. That's what we're dealing with in 2020, ladies and gentlemen. Tell a friend, tell somebody the bishop is on the air. Start a watch party. Let's get this thing crunk. I'll take your telephone calls, of course, at 413-337-1867. Once again, 413-337-1867. Those of you who are streaming live on whatever platform, do me a favor, like, share, tap that screen on Periscope, send those hearts up, subscribe there on YouTube, like and share on Facebook, wherever you're chiming in from. Let somebody know we're on. Start a watch party. Do your thing. Let's talk about this situation here. America is on fire and in desperate need of real leadership that it doesn't have at the top. Once again, 413-337-1867. Rep your city, rep your town. Let folks know we're on the air. We're going to be right back. I'm going to play an oldie, but a goodie. Gil Scott-Heron once said the revolution will not be televised. How wrong he was. Just turn on your TV. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner, because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run, or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still life of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news, and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Key, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
And that's the one part of that Gil Scott-Heron got right. The revolution will be live. And live and in color it is. All across America, turn on your TV. The nation is on fire. Civil unrest is happening from coast to coast. Minneapolis, Atlanta, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Waterbury. Cities literally from coast to coast. There's civil unrest. Washington, D.C. People are in the streets. Now, in a time like this, you would think that the highest levels of leadership would be strategizing to come together to, to bring peace, to ask people to be calm, to try to bring about some level of unity, or give people who are aggrieved some assurances about what your administration is going to do to ensure that the reasons that catalyzed this civil unrest are going to be mitigated in some way. They're going to be dealt with in some way. That your administration is going to really take seriously their concerns. And I don't mean reading off a teleprompter at a speech about the rocket launching and claiming that we support peaceful protests. We hear your pleas. Because we know somebody wrote that for Trump. Those weren't his words. Because let's keep it 100. Let's keep it a buck. He doesn't support peaceful protests. If he did, Colin Kaepernick would be in the NFL right now. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How you doing?
Just fine, just fine. Just wanted to touch base with you this morning.
Where you calling from?
UK, but I'm.
Where you calling from?
UK, but I'm
okay.
From the US.
Okay, go right ahead.
And what I've seen now is really the Great Awakening, and people have two options. You're either going to be a change agent or continue to be guardians and caretakers for the religion of white supremacy. What's happened now, you're going to see a chain reaction, I think, globally, but in particular, stateside. We cannot continue to watch with blinders, in particular, white people, and act as if what's happening is not happening.
Yeah.
It's not our business to try to explain to you, to try to coddle you. We don't need to pray with you. We don't need to try to convince you that you need to become allies, because either you're a change agent or you will continually to be guardians and caretakers for the religion of white supremacy.
Yeah.
In particular in the white church.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is a long time coming. We understand that contemporary white evangelicalism is nothing but the son of slaveholder religion of the past, where white Christians could lynch a black man on Saturday night and praise white Jesus on Sunday morning. It's the same thing today. I'd say before Trump came into the office, it was more covert, but now it's just straight up in your face. And I keep saying over and over again that white Christianity is nothing more than white supremacy in drag.
That's true. And for those brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters, who feel that in order to be closer to God or to Christ, they have to attend these white churches, if you aren't challenging pastors, elders, white pastors and elders in the church, but I would even go a step further, you need to leave those institutions.
Yeah.
Because they are not speaking truth to power. You're trying to hide. You're trying to run for shelter. When you attend these white institutions, these white churches, and act as if you're totally oblivious to what's going on.
Now, what I don't get is this. I don't understand anybody who attends any church that doesn't speak to the social ills that affect them, their families, their communities, period, black or white. But then
but I'm speaking more so for those, because you find a lot of black elites, and I would encourage everyone to read E. Franklin Fraser's book, Black Bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
In addition, if you can find it, James H. Cone,
Absolutely.
I would encourage you to read The Cross and the Lynching Tree.
Excellent book.
And his 2-volume set on black power, black theology.
Yeah.
We need to get beyond this pushing this feel-good religion, because that's not going to work anymore.
Absolutely.
Jesus was a revolutionary, and until we understand that, we cannot continue to be comfortable to sidestep the issues what's going on in our communities now.
Yeah. Speaking of James Cone, it was James Cone in his book, God of the Oppressed, that said any authentic theology must affirm that God is on the side of the oppressed. And if you're in a church that doesn't do that, you're in the wrong church.
Real talk, Bishop. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it as always.
Take care. 413-337-1867. So you would think that there'd be an appeal for calm. There would be a commitment to work to mitigate the systemic ills that cause people to be in the streets in the first place. That's not what happened. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what happened. And it's not just that the bigot in the White House is who he is. It's that he does not have people around him that can grab his ear and say, hey, look, man, this is not the time to do this. and can influence him to be bigger than he is. Which means he's not only dangerous, he and everybody in his circle are dangerous. Um, um, the fact that you don't see members of his administration resigning in the midst of what's happening based on his response to it lets you know that they are just as bad as he is. Um, um, and I know that there are those who continue, well, Bishop, and here's the kicker, because they always want to qualify um, what we're dealing with. They want to give some half-hearted acknowledgement about the murder of George Floyd and pretend that they empathize with the black community about that. I was watching crazy evangelical pastor Greg Locke on a video. What happened to George Floyd was absolutely reprehensible, but that's how you know that they're not genuine when they give some half-hearted condemnation about the murder of George Floyd, when they qualify it with a but. See, I learned as a kid about conjunctions. Y'all remember that song, Conjunction, Junction, What's Your Function? Hooking up verbs, phrases, and clauses. It lets you know that what's on one side of the conjunction is not valid without what's on the right side. So when you put a but in there, you're trying to connect the two and give them equal value. And so George Floyd's murder was wrong, but looting and burning, that's wrong too. So basically, they're giving half-hearted condemnation of George Floyd's murder so that they can then condemn black people for looting, burning, or breaking cars, and all that kind of stuff, saying that is just as reprehensible as murdering innocent black people. If you can't condemn the murder of George Floyd without a but and then talking about looting, then we know who you are. We know who you are. If the first time you talked about the murder of George Floyd was so you could condemn protesters for looting, we know who you are. The first time you talked about it was so you could talk about burning and looting and breaking in buildings. We know who you are. You're a white supremacist or a white supremacy apologist. Straight up, that's who you are. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop.
How are you?
I'm good. This is Dr. Grayson out of Dallas.
All right. Good to hear from you.
Good to talk to you. Look here, let's talk about that looting issue. Now, here in Dallas, I was out there. I stood next to the chief of police trying to diffuse the situation. Number one, in Dallas, I was there when a Caucasian girl told the chief that it was white folks that did the damage.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look in Tennessee, that courthouse that was burned down, they've arrested a 25-year-old white man. In Minneapolis, they said it was a cop. Got a picture of the man that started the burning of a building. Then you'll see it's in California where you have a white woman tagging a building with Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't start the looting.
Well,
white nationalists did it here in Dallas.
There are provocateurs out there. There are infiltrators that are out there. There are those who want a race war that are out there pretending that they're with the crowd of protesters and are definitely doing incendiary things so that the protesters will get credit for it. We know that's happening. That always happens.
And so I guess for me, for those people that you're saying, the evangelicals, but the looting is wrong, why don't you talk to your people then?
Right.
Don't hold me accountable for what I didn't do. That was my point. You'll sit there and blame us all day and use that to justify what we endure.
Right.
Hold your own people accountable. That's why I said as soon as George Floyd was murdered, not another white preacher that is not saying anything about what he did. Don't you tell me you're a Christian. Don't you talk to me about God.
Well,
I don't want to hear it.
My thing with so-called white Christians is this. I don't want to hear anything from you about looting, burning, or any of that. If you never condemn white supremacy, racism, and anti-black bigotry and racial violence against black bodies, then you don't have nothing to say to me about how people respond to their pain. I don't want to hear anything from you. Nothing. And that goes for black preachers as well.
You're right. And I told them, don't tell me how I have to bring my issues to you. Talking about you don't want to hear it because I'm too volatile or I'm too angry. If you're a child of God, you will hear my pain regardless of how it's delivered. I'm done.
All right. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. 413-337-1867. At 1:30, about 6 minutes, we're going to have Senator Eric Lesser on the program. He's going to give us an update from the Statehouse here in Massachusetts. I'm not sure what the update is going to be given what's happening. Boston was on fire last night, as well as many other parts of the nation. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, Bishop Swan. I'm just calling with a question regarding the protests around the world. I don't understand why the emphasis of this whole thing that started is not on the store owner who called the police regarding a counterfeit $20 bill. This must be a practice that this particular store owner must be doing, because where is the proof of the alleged counterfeit $20?
Right.
What did the caller say to the police?
Good question.
Regarding this counterfeit $20, because my thing is maybe the man didn't know it was a counterfeit, but through that warrant for him to the store owner to call the police, he didn't have to service Mr. Floyd. He could have just sent them on his way. So it's a practice in that store. I also saw in the news Saturday that the store owner himself said that they train their employees about counterfeit bills, and that the person that calls his employee is getting threats. So, if the police is constantly at this store, the store owner, the person that called, need to be held accountable as well.
And whether or not they are targeting black people in their little operation to identify counterfeit bills. I mean, are they checking bills when white folks shop there, or is it just us because we're the suspicious ones? So there's a whole lot of questions around why George Floyd was reported, whether or not it was legitimate, whether it was confirmed that it was a counterfeit bill, and at the end of the day, let's just say hypothetically, it was a counterfeit $20 bill. Since when does a man need to die over $20?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
413-337-1867. 3 minutes until our Statehouse update. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, sir. I got a comment and something I'd like to put to you. Number one is I'm sick of hearing about the police needing more training. Killing people is not a training issue.
Well, they don't really need more training because police engage with armed white people every day and don't kill them. So it's not to
Of
me,
course.
it's not a training issue at all.
Absolutely not. And another thing is, I do realize, like most people say, not all cops are bad. But the problem is they've got to bring down this blue wall that they put up whenever somebody does something wrong. Granted, they're not doing it so much right now because of the seriousness of this issue, but people get beat up all the time, and the cops really, resist when they try to discipline the bad people. So if you're a good cop, you're not a good cop if you don't try to get rid of the bad cops.
Thank you. And that's, years ago I used to parrot the narrative we hear all of the time. I heard a politician on CNN saying it yesterday, and I used to be that guy who repeated that thing. 99% of cops are good cops. There's a few bad apples, et cetera, et cetera. I stopped using that years ago because I came to that conclusion. You cannot be a good cop if you know corruption is going on and you sit silently and say nothing. You can't be a good cop when you cover for bad cops. You can't be a good cop when you falsify a police report so that you can cover for bad cops. As long as you're part of this blue wall of silence and are unwilling to root out the bad cops among you, you're a bad cop just like they are.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more on that. The other thing I wanted to say is I really think the only time we're going to get rid of these white supremacists, and I happen to be a white man, is if we do something like bring back the armed version of the Black Panthers.
Yeah.
And every time they have one of these protests where these supremacists show up with their guns, the Panthers show up with their guns. They don't agitate. They don't try to start any trouble, but they just show you're not the only people that can show force here. And, maybe some other groups like the Weathermen and the SDS can be resurrected and help out with this sort of thing. But really,
I tweeted the other day that the Second Amendment is for Black people too, and I said, go get your firearms, safety training, get your license, get strapped, get prepared to protect your families, and I believe that we ought to do that.
Really, and I heard you mention earlier about people trying to start a race war. And I do think that would be a terrible thing, just like I think this looting is terrible, but I think it's necessary at this point. And, if it comes to a race war, I'm on your side.
All right. I appreciate you. Where are you calling from?
Springfield.
All right. Thank you for your call. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, sir. Bye now.
All right, 413-337-1867. The next call we should hear from should be Senator Eric Lesser, who's going to give us a Statehouse update, what's happening here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I'm sure we'll be talking about more of this because Boston was on fire last night. So it's happening here throughout New England. Springfield, where I am, has dodged bullets over and over again. It's crazy out here. Good morning.
Good morning, Bishop. I just thought it's very interesting that Harriet Tubman is supposed to be on the $20 bill, and the Trump administration has stopped that process. So I don't think any of it is coincidence.
Right.
that it would be a $20 bill. And his comment towards Harriet Tubman's face on the $20 bill, Trump, I'm talking about Trump's statement, and that all of this got started over a bogus $20 bill. I find it not coincidence.
Not at all. Not at all. And that was one of the first things he did. Was cancel Harriet Tubman, the scheduling of Harriet Tubman, replacing Andrew Jackson, who is one of Trump's heroes. And of course, Andrew Jackson, responsible for the Trail of Tears, who specialized in killing Native Americans. It's no wonder that Trump loves him. But good point. Thank you for your call.
The Native American community right there in that community is so strong. So absolutely. I think it's a message definitely for Blacks and for the Native Americans. Thank you, Bishop, for what you're doing.
Thank you. All right. I know the senator's been trying to get in. Hopefully he'll get in next. Come on in now, Senator. It's a good time to call. We're going to see what's happening out there in the Statehouse. In the middle of all of this pandemic and pandemonium at the same time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Gotcha. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm watching you on Twitter on video, and I'm on my phone. I'm realizing it's probably just easier to do this by video next time. But thanks for.
We can do that too. We can do that too. We can certainly arrange for that to happen. Matter of fact, the service that I use has finally come up with that technology where we can throw a link out there and invite a guest and do a side-by-side video with it. So it's an interesting way of doing things. How you doing today?
Good, but it's of course a challenging time, and I just wanted to say to you, Bishop, that I appreciate your leadership, and I mainly today want to listen. So I got a notepad with me here, and I think that everybody, if this isn't triggering soul searching for people, I don't know what will. And so, I mainly want to just take a little bit of time to listen to you, or I don't know if there's a way to have callers at the same time, but
let's try it. I just sent you a link. Let's see if we can get you here on video, then we can probably take some calls as well. Y'all have to bear with us now because I'm experimenting with this for the first time. I'm trying it for the first time. And we're gonna see how it goes down with the senator, and then we'll let you guys call in as we continue this conversation.
Well, you have a Zoom link, or what did you?
I just sent you a link, a Restream link that should that should patch you right in here that we can get you on video.
Okay. So you want me to hang up and try that? Or?
Yep. Let's do that. And if that fails, we'll go back to the telephone.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Stand by.
All right. So Dr. King said that he understood that the riot is the language of the unheard. The riot is the language of the unheard. So for all of those that are out there quoting Dr. King and telling us that we need to be more like Dr. King, I want you to remember now, I need you to understand that Dr. King understood this that's going on right now. That's the part of Dr. King y'all don't want to talk about. That's the part of him y'all don't want to deal with. And that's the reality of what is. Let's see. I think we got the senator. Let me see if we get him in here. Come on here.
Can you
There
see
you
me?
are.
Hey,
All right.
we should have been using this method all along.
Oh man.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So, man, what do you think about what's going on, man? What is happening in this nation right now? Boston was on fire last night. So Massachusetts has joined the myriad of cities across the nation that are in turmoil. What's your take on that, Senator?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Bishop. And I do mainly want to listen. So if there's going to be call-ins or, if you want to share thoughts, I want to listen. But, I think we need to keep the focus on the fact that the overwhelming number of people that were in Boston yesterday were peaceful and were exercising, really a fundamental American right. And obviously, there's no excuse for violence or looting. But that was I was watching it for most of the afternoon and the evening, and there were thousands of people there from every walk of life who were peaceful. It's really incumbent on keep that in mind.
Finish your thoughts, Senator. Caller, give us a moment. Finish your thoughts, Senator. We'll take the call.
Okay.
So, I think we need to
call again. Can I speak now?
One moment, Brother Moultrie. Finish your thoughts, Senator.
So, I think we need to do two things here. We need to honor and lift up those peaceful demonstrators, who, by the way, are marking in the best of American tradition. Our First Amendment right is a foundational right in this country. And we need to lift those voices. And we need to put the light and we need to put the attention on the people that are bringing up these issues peacefully, which, by the way, is virtually everyone. I just think it's disappointing when the attention, it just always seems in situations like this, the attention immediately shifts to what is a very, very, very small number of people who obviously are not doing the right thing. But I'm trying to keep in mind all those young people and all those people of all ages and colors who were out there yesterday peacefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to commend Nancy Pelosi for quickly shutting Trump down regarding the First Amendment issue. I was surprised that she finally stepped up. I thought she'd forgotten what her job was, but she did an admirable job on that. And maybe we can go back to remember that the president is not a dictator, so I don't know how he get to declare the emergency
he thinks he
around
is.
this pandemic thing, and as relate to the unfortunately murdering torture of a man, and it shows on film that you see there's at least two other officers, one on his back and one on his knee. They should also be in jail by now. The one that I have a little bit of problem with is the guy who seems to be somewhat confused, might be Asian of some type, but allegedly all of those men, including the black guy, worked together at a club, so they should have known each other. And that's been over the last 10 years. And then we have should be an outstanding attorney general in Minnesota by the name of Keith Ellison, who was the vice chairman of the Democratic Party. So I believe that he's taken control of the case at this point. So I believe that we can still demonstrate as aggressively as necessary. And I hate to see people burning down other people's buildings, but a lot of these times, based on the information I've been getting, is that some of these people might be doing damage to their own building because they got insurance. And if you notice, somebody stole one or two TVs. Where are you going to go when there's a cops 20 feet away with a 45-inch TV? You're not going to get away with it. So I don't believe that looter was even true and that was even real. So there's a lot of fake going on, and we got to be careful not to buy into the foolishness and keep our eyes on what's actually happening, because they're showing you small snippets of what's actually happened, and they want you to reach conclusion and go along with CNN as well as the local news. So
I just caution people to be very careful on the propaganda that's being portrayed upon them. And Eric needs to straighten himself out, because I don't know if I can vote for him in the future, because his office appears to be hard to find there in East Long Meadow. But you guys have a great day.
All right. Thank you for your call. Senator, I've always been able to find your office.
Who was the caller? Did he give his? Sounded familiar. Did he give his name? It doesn't have to.
That was Leon Moultrie.
Oh yeah, of course. I know Leon, of course. You can give me a call afterward and we'll chat.
Absolutely. I'm sure he's still listening. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning, caller.
Hey, brother Bishop.
How are you?
My goodness.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm so glad I got to talk to you today. My name is Regina Ruth. I'm calling from West Michigan, and I don't know the brother that's sitting. I don't know him, so can you introduce me to this senator?
That's Senator Eric Lesser from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay, and which party does he come from?
You can answer her, Senator.
Nice to meet you. You said your name's Regina from Michigan?
Regina Ruth from Michigan, from West Michigan.
Nice to meet you. My name's Eric Lesser. I'm a Democrat, a state senator from Massachusetts. So,
Okay. All right. I am calling today because I began to blow the trumpet yesterday, Bishop.
All right.
And I know that you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm going to blow the trumpet again today. I'm going to blow it again at noon. And what's happening here where I am is many factions of people who are protesting. So you have the Black Lives Matters group. You have African People's Socialist Party International. They are fighting the cause for the African people. Internationally, and especially right now for the Black natives of this country. So we're not fighting racism, though. We're fighting colonialism.
Well, to that point, one of the things I continue to say when interacting with our white liberal compatriots, those who consider themselves to be allies, and Senator, this happens a lot. People who find themselves on the same side of an issue often think that they're supposed to be in lockstep on everything. So I often clash with a lot of liberals because, I've been very critical of Joe Biden and a lot of things with the Democrat Party. And what I found out is over the last 3.5 years that there's a lot of folks who call themselves resistors who think they're our allies because they're anti-Trump. And I said, there's a big difference between just being anti-Trump and being anti-white supremacy, anti-racism, anti-black bigotry, anti-colonialism, as the caller is alluding to. There's a huge difference. And there are those who are willing to tolerate some level of white supremacy as long as we have Democrat rule instead of Republican rule.
Chime in on that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So, in this struggle, one of the things that Dr. Martin Luther King said too. See, the thing about it is that me and my people, And when I talk about my people right now, I'm talking about descendants of Africa. That's what I'm talking about. Martin Luther King said that he regretted trying to integrate
us into a burning house
because he had took his people into a burning building.
Absolutely.
And he also said that the church, who is every believer that is in Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, hallelujah. He said that we would be no more than a social club if we did not regain our prophetic zeal.
And that's what I've been preaching for such a long time. I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you so much, Senator.
Yeah, certainly a lot to discuss there, and it's something that we have to have eyes and ears open to. And I think there's two elements of that I just would like to sort of discuss for a second. First, Bishop, you're absolutely right that being a Democrat and resisting civil rights violations, resisting white supremacy are not the same thing. In fact, any student of history knows that it was the Democratic Party really before the 1960s that was the key segregationist party in the American South and throughout most of the country. So there's a complicated history here that people need to learn and need to unpack. And we don't teach it enough in schools, and we don't teach it enough to each other. I actually want to point out and lift up something that you did recently, Bishop, and I should have done this probably a while ago, but at a recent, at the Anti-Defamation League event where you spoke about anti-Semitism, for example, I thought you did an incredible job rooting that in history and in understanding that there's history here with every action. And we have to understand and learn each other's histories in order to move forward. So, I appreciate the caller for bringing that up and raising that. And I think the hope is that we can continue to move forward with teaching history to each other, because that's the only way we can move forward with understanding really the present.
The important thing, first of all, is that we've got to be proactive to mitigate the social ills that exist that cause a recipe for these types of social unrest incidents to happen. And if we're not proactive about it, then we're going to continue to just be responding to incidents as they occur and the reaction of folks. People have to understand this isn't just George Floyd. This is a buildup of things. I mean, you got Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. You got so many things that happened, and then George Floyd was just the spark that ignited the flame. And so if we were proactive about dealing with these things, we may not see what's happening in many of these cities across the nation. And most of these cities, just like our city here in Springfield, have mayors and administrations who think that could never happen in my city. I've told our mayor over and over again, Springfield has all of the elements of a Ferguson, of a Baltimore, of a Minneapolis, that we are one incident away from blowing up just like this. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bishop Swan. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. So these protests, it's a lot of things. It's obviously it's a gruesome murder that happened to George Floyd, and I fully support the protesters. And I think it's worded, as one of the callers earlier noted, that a lot of the defacing of businesses is largely coming from imposters who are maybe infiltrament. But I think what I found is, as you mentioned, a lot of people are when they're attacking these, they're invoking Martin Luther King as a means to say, you should be nonviolent, and it's like they conveniently forgot that, Martin Luther King and protesters of the civil rights movement, they were peacefully marching. That didn't stop them from getting, beaten by police, getting hosed, getting attacked by police dogs.
Absolutely. And I brought that up as these conversations were going on. Said, number one, remember, y'all murdered Dr. King, and number two, you put hoses and dogs, and you killed those protesters. You beat them upside their head as they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and so it doesn't really matter what form of protest Black folk choose to give voice to their grievances. None of them are ever acceptable. If they had listened to the silent protests of NFL athletes kneeling, we may not be at this point today. And so when Kaepernick and those teammates of his and fellow NFL players were silently kneeling, they were castigated as thugs and hoodlums and unpatriotic. So it's no matter what we do, if we silently kneel or if we break in a target, it's the same response. And my concern is this: when you become more concerned about someone breaking in target than the targets of racialized violence against black bodies, that's problematic.
Right. And it's like, even when we talk about Martin Luther King with, nonviolence, like when he was talking about nonviolence, he was specific. He said that, the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world.
Absolutely.
And that he also considered poverty to be a form of violence. So that those are some of the things which, both conservatives and liberals alike are kind of cleansed from his record, along with his explicit anti-capitalist statements,
anti-capitalism, anti-militarism, anti-war. He said, I could no longer condemn young black men in the ghetto throwing Molotov cocktails until I condemn the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. That's the quote of Dr. King that you will not see them posting on their timeline.
Yeah, because after when he started speaking out against the Vietnam War, a lot of his former allies, they ditched him because, he was, I think, last year, he was one of his life, he was one of the most hated men in America
by blacks and whites.
Yeah,
absolutely. Appreciate your call. You gave us a lot to think about.
Bishop, to build off of that, I think that's very important to bring up there. And, the water cannons and the billy clubs of Bull Connor, I don't think they had rubber bullets and tear gas. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But they got to imagine pretty much the same effect, getting hit with getting shot at with a water cannon. So, again, it's about history. People, I don't always think that people in all communities appreciate what that evokes in the history of this country. To see protests confronted with that level of militarization, it's an escalation of a conflict when our leaders need to be bringing people together.
Absolutely. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bishop. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. One point I wanted to bring out, this has happened. This is the 11th time a black man was killed in Minneapolis. The 10 other times the cops got off. So not making examples of the other 10 murders and just letting people just get a pass, that led to this. So this is nothing new in Minneapolis. Now that they're on blast, everybody's so concerned about what they're going to do and how they're going to change things. But to me, the other 10 murders, letting the cops get up, and the recent one that we all know about, Castillo, all this crap going on in your town and nothing being done about it. That's what led to this murder. This man was not going to take his knee off this man's neck until he was dead. If you see the video, you could see that. This was flat out murder. That's all I got to say.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your call. Senator, if you got a few minutes, I go off the air on WTCC in 3 minutes. So I'm going to begin to transition off that program, and I do an extended show here online and continue to take calls. So if you want to hang out,
Yep, I'll stay with you.
okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready to transition. For those of you who are listening on WTCC, it's always a pleasure being with you. I want to thank our remote director, Mr. Jim Malaquez, and his team, who for weeks now, they have been touching us in right here live from the man cave. Have not been able to go into the studio because of the pandemic, but he's been making sure that we're able to be patched right in from here. I want you all to remember our virtual Bible study is on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, and we stream live from the sanctuary at 11 a.m. on Sunday. Those who are on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook. You know how we do. Every week we go into the overdrive mix. Y'all just hang out with us. Those who are trying to call in, I'll get back to your calls on the other side of this break as we transition off of WTCC and then come back with you. So until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you. And so do I. Don't touch that. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. All right. So we're now into overdrive, Senator.
All right.
Continuing on. All right. Those of you who were coming in, who were calling in, feel free to give us a call again, 413-337-1867. So I was not shocked, but at the same time, because of how raw the pain is and the angst that people are going through, it was still, Senator, it was still somewhat infuriating when the day after we're watching our cities burn, the president of the United States tweets out sending the National Guard into Minneapolis, and then he decides he wants to quote a 1967 racist Miami police chief and says, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts," which many took as a direct threat to have the National Guard shoot protesters. That type of incendiary language after a night of unrest like that is absolutely reprehensible. We'll take this call and then I'll get your thoughts on that. Okay. Caller, you're on the air.
I'm on the air?
You're on the air.
All right. It's Bernadette from Maryville, Indiana.
How you doing?
I was noticing because I went to a friend's house in Hammond, and all the stores were closed up because they were thinking that the protesters were coming that way. I live in Maryville. But really, I don't even want to talk about that. I think Trump is making this more about him than it's really what it is.
Well, that's what malignant narcissists do. They make everything about themselves.
Yeah, but I think he's making everything worse, though. It's not better. It's not. And you know what? I don't know if you saw that interview where it was a pastor that I don't know his name, but I've seen him before, and he was like praising him for not being racist. Do you remember that one?
It was probably, if I had to guess, if I had to guess, I would guess it was probably Robert Jeffress. From Dallas.
He made me nauseated inside. I was like, oh my God, why is he kissing his butt? Anyway, it's not going to be an end. We're going to have a revolution, and it's not, I don't know which way it's going to go, but we're always going to be attacked. But I believe this November election coming up, this is just another distraction. And that's how I look at it. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's always throwing out distractions. He's always making everything about himself. He can be altruistic. He does not know how, to show any empathy or any sympathy. When he does, it's hollow, it's empty, it's scripted. And then 2 seconds later, he goes back into his own selfish, narcissistic, egomaniacal, sociopathical, psychopathic gibberish. I mean, that's who we have in the White House, and that's what we have to have in mind come November. Thank you so much for your call, Senator. What are your thoughts? I mean, this guy threatening goes back to 1967 when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Then he wants to pretend. I didn't know who said that. I just heard it before, and I didn't really mean that.
I mean, again, anyone who knows anything about American history reads that tweet and your skin crawls. I mean, the hair should be up on every person's back reading an escalation like that. I mean, it's just horrible. And I just want to zoom out for a second because the fact that this is happening while 40 million people have been laid off. Well,
40 million.
40 million. We will likely job numbers are going to be posted at the end of this week that are likely going to show a 20% unemployment rate in this country. That is of what we know.
That is the highest rate since the Great Depression. We know 100,000 and counting people are dead from coronavirus. We also know that disproportionately it is impacting communities of color and our most frail and our most vulnerable citizens. We know that the business closures, while Walmart and Target and Amazon have seen record profits and record volume, it's our community businesses and local stores have been the ones that have had to close. Our local restaurants. We are at a hinge moment in history, I believe. And we need leaders who are going to summon people to work together in common purpose to overcome this moment. And he has failed. I'd point out that there were a group of us in Massachusetts that had practically been begging to mobilize the National Guard 3 months ago in March to help with contact tracing, to help with testing, to help with getting medical infrastructure up, to help with distributing PPE. And that was a slow, laborious process to get that started to help confront the virus. And then at a moment's notice, the National Guard gets mobilized for this. I think that is very instructive of where we are as a society, and we need people to step up and to be part of the solution. Absolutely. Counselor, I see you on the air. I sent you a link. If you want to come in and join me and the senator, we'd love to have you.
Okay, I haven't done my hair yet.
All right, well, just go ahead with the call then.
You're welcome. I'm just going to thank you guys for doing this and having the show. It's Counselor Tracy Whitfield. Thank you, Senator Lexer, for taking the time to join the show this morning. And Bishop, thank you for always having these interesting conversations and things that benefit our community. So my question to the senator is, we had an interesting call yesterday where we were asked how the white community can help out, and more specifically, how white politicians can help with preventing situations like George Floyd from happening, and also reprimand officers when it does happen, like immediately. And so I wanted to know if there's any legislation that's being created to, help and protect people of color. And if not, I want to know if we could get a roundtable discussion with community leaders like Bishop Swan, yourself, and other politicians that's interested in preventing these type of situations from happening, because I'm tired of worrying about my son and my daughter and my granddaughter and my brothers and cousins every single day, not knowing what's going to happen. And while we have peaceful protests here, any day something can happen. Any day. So I just want to know,
Counselor, to that point, after every one of these major civil uprisings, we have reached out to the mayor to say, hey, listen, we need to be proactive in terms of putting into place preventative measures so this does not become Springfield. And I mean, right. you were with us with Congressman Joe Kennedy yesterday, and you heard my spiel on that. And each and every time the response is basically, we already got it taken care of. Basically, it's a sense of denial that this could ever happen in Springfield. That's the same thing that the mayor of Ferguson thought. That's the same thing the mayor of Baltimore thought. That's the same thing that mayors across America thought, that this could never happen in my city. And every single time, I'm going to send him another letter today, as soon as I get done with this program, pleading once again, let's do what we need to do to make sure this is prevented here, because I insist that we are one single incident away from blowing up like this. It could have happened when your godson was pushed into the street and hit by a police officer and hit by a car and died. We could have had an uprising then when Taheem Goff was killed by police and they refused to prosecute. We could have blown up then. There's so many incidents that have happened right here in little old Springfield, Massachusetts, that could have resulted in the type of civil unrest that we see happening across the nation. And yet every single time we say, hey, let's try to prevent this, we get rebuffed.
And not to put you on the spot, Bishop, but I wonder, do you have those asks? Because I thought they were very reasonable, and I thought that they were asks that can get the job done. If we can't do it right here with the mayor of the city, then we need to make mandates on the state level. And so that's why I want to hear from the senator, because, and even the federal level, we cannot stop the buck with one mayor. And so if he can't get it done, let's move on. Let's move on to folks that want to get it done and can get it done.
All right, I'll let the senator answer.
Yeah. So first, hi, Councilor Whitfield. I can't see you, but I can hear you. And I just want to lift up, Tracy Whitfield.
She didn't do her hair yet, so she can't come on.
I just want to lift up Councilor Whitfield, who she's a great friend, but also a really a great leader for our city and our region. And I just really want to make sure that we elevate that, and we've got to shed light on leaders who are working for change and who are out there and pushing the envelope. I actually do have some notes that I took this morning of federal, state, and local. So I'll go in that order of just some ideas of federal, state, and local items that we can work on and that we have been working on. But importantly, I want to hear, this is why I'm on the call today, Bishop, is I want to hear from the community. But here's just a few things, and people can kind of keep track of this, frankly, at home and in your own life, and see where the progress is. First, the Federal Department of Justice has what's called a pattern and practice investigation procedure that they do in cases like this. There needs to be a federal DOJ pattern and practice investigation into Minneapolis and, frankly, into a lot more police departments around the country. We also do have blueprints for how to make things better, and it's called the 21st Century Policing Plan, which Attorney General Holder put together and Attorney General Loretta Lynch put together in the Obama administration in response, in part, to Ferguson and to other issues. That entire plan, which was a meticulously done plan that we're working with governors, working with community leaders, got thrown out the door and shredded when Jeff Sessions became Attorney General and when Trump became president. We need to pull that 21st Century Policing plan back in, and we need to demand that DOJ follow it. We also need to look at funding programs. What is the rate of federal funding for community policing, for example, versus federal funding for purchasing and supplying military equipment to police departments? That's a very concrete funding issue that needs to be looked at on a federal level. We also need to look at, just frankly, how investigations are done and who gets to decide how a federal DOJ investigation unfolds and which communities are subject to it and which aren't. So those are just a few. I mean, that's 4 or so, 5 things on a federal level. On a state level, I think we need to examine the payouts that are made to settle abuse claims. Millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer money is spent on settling these claims, and there's often no transparency about what was involved. There's no transparency about who was involved or what led to the claim in the first place. I think we need more independence for a review board, and I think we've seen this play out in Springfield, but we need to make sure, there's a classic expression, who watches the watchers? And we need more independence in these review boards to make sure that we're getting answers and we're getting cooperation. I think we need to beef up the Attorney General's ability to intervene in cases, because I think you often see situations where district attorneys either have conflicts or they can't, or they don't have the resources to investigate these cases as fully as they need to. And then on a local level, so that's a few ideas on a state level. And then on a local level, we've got to do more around community policing. We have made really good progress, I think, in Massachusetts. There's a lot more we do need to do. But we've got to make sure that the money is there to support the community policing efforts so that there are relationships between law enforcement and community members. And so the relationships build the trust, and the trust reduces the violence. So that's really, really important. And, I think you've seen this play out. I don't know if people have seen, Bishop, but some of the coverage, for example, the Houston police chief who actually went out and greeted for the protesters. There was coverage of a sheriff in Michigan who actually marched. The sheriff himself marched with some of the protesters, and that does so much to diffuse tensions. Because the mindset, I think, of law enforcement needs to be as guardians of a community rather than warriors. We need law enforcement to view themselves as guardians. And when you're a guardian of a community, you work together to protect that community. That's lacking right now. So those are just a few ideas, but Tracy, you and I can talk offline about some more. I'm certainly happy to do any or all visits, engagements, roundtables. But just this morning, those were a few things from my previous work in this area, that we could really start doing right now as a report card on leaders to see if they're actually delivering.
Yes. I love that idea. I love it. A report card. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I know other people are trying to get their calls in, but Senator, you know that you're a great friend and you do great work. And I'm not in your district, but my parents are. And I always tell them you better vote for him because he is one of the workers out there for all people. And I really respect and appreciate you. I'm just going to leave with this last comment that, I don't know if you know, but I am the co-chair of the Mason Square C3. And while community policing does work in those areas, if you're really not directly involved as an officer, it may not work. I was telling Bishop yesterday that my son's friend was followed, and my son told him to pull up in my house and ring the doorbell because they didn't know what type of harassment was going to happen. And so my son and his friends have me, but other kids don't have that, you know? And it's very sad that they have to feel like that all the time. And so we really got to get together and do more and prevent that from happening, because I am tired of the profiling. I am tired of the racial discrimination. I am tired of the injustice, and it has got to stop. And the time is now. There's no more waiting, because like Bishop keeps repeating, we are one incident away. And I feel that on the inside. And so I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything that you do in the community.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate you calling.
You're welcome.
Yeah, one of the things she said, Senator, tired of the profiling. I talked yesterday. I preached a message entitled "We Still Can't Breathe," and I highlighted the story of the Good Samaritan and how Jesus asked who was his neighbor, and the fact that we don't see each other as neighbors. I talked about this phenomenon that every now and then I'll make up words just to prove a point. I talked about the thugification of the Black community. That if we can, and incidentally, the president used that term when referring to the protesters. He literally said these thugs and put it in all capital letters. If we can convince the broader white society that these folks are thugs, they're hoodlums, they're bad people, unlike his very good people who carry AR-15s, nooses, and wave Confederate flags. But if we can prove to these people that they're nothing but thugs, then we can justify murdering them, which is one of the reasons. Whenever an unarmed Black person is killed, what we see across the media are these images from their social media or other places that show them in a negative light. They highlight if they had a criminal record, even though it has nothing to do at all with the incident. Basically, this thugification is saying, if I can show you that this was a bad person, then I can take away your empathy for what happened to them. And unfortunately, that otherizing of Black people happens all of the time. So people have much less empathy when we die at the hands of law enforcement.
I think that's exactly right, Bishop. And it's it has very scary echoes in history. I apologize. I turned for a second because a book I actually recommend that I'm in the middle of reading, it's called The Dark Valley. And it's about the 1930s in Europe. And one of the points of this book, and any student of history, is the dehumanizing of another person is one of the precursors to violence and to systemic racism and systemic injustice. If you view the person you're engaging with as a fellow human, you're not going to treat them the way that we see people being treated. And again, it has echoes in history. We are not teaching history to our communities. And look, society is segregated in a lot of ways. I try to be cognizant of that. I'm guilty of it. Our education systems, our workplaces, our friendship circles. So, but one thing I do get optimism from is that I do think that millions and millions of people, including many white people, want to be part of the solution, and maybe don't know how, or they're trying to figure it out. But if we can't galvanize this moment to change the Overton window and get some shift in consciousness, then we might as well give up. And I refuse to believe that. So, again, just to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, we have never faced a situation in living history of 40 million people without work. We have no precedent for it. We have no model for it. Our social safety net, frankly, in good times, couldn't handle the need before coronavirus. We are in uncharted territory here, and it could go in a lot of different directions. And I just want all of us to work to be part of moving in a positive direction.
You rattled off the stats. I tweeted about it yesterday. Basically, those same stats that every major American city is on fire. 105,000 people are dead from COVID-19. 40 million people are out of jobs. The unemployment rate is at 18%, at least being reported, which is still the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression. And America is extremely polarized along racial lines. And then I asked the question, is Donald Trump done making America great again? Because this is where we are. I mean, this is where we are. At the end of his presidency, this is where America is, and there has to be a reckoning. There has to be some consequences to this. And here's what I fear: is that if after all of this, if the race in November is even close, if he wins or if it's even close, it really tells you how extremely divided America is, that 40% or so of the nation could still vote to maintain this guy as president when it's been nothing but a 3.5-year dumpster fire.
Right. And not to sound like a broken horse here, but again, lessons from history, right? In 1964, Lyndon Johnson won the single biggest electoral landslide in American history. And then 8 years later, in 1972, Richard Nixon completely reversed it and won the single biggest landslide in American history. And we know what happened in between: 1968, MLK, RFK, the follow-up to Vietnam. So it can go in different directions. But, a positive example is at the depth of the Great Depression, at the depth of World War II, we did come out of that experience as a stronger country. Certainly everything was not fixed, but we became a more equal country. That was the beginning of the civil rights movement, the women's rights movement. So we need to call on leaders right now. And I do think it's a generational struggle. I don't think that's an exaggeration. We have never faced a situation. By the way, we didn't even bring up, Bishop, every student in America is out of school.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When has that ever happened in modern history? Every single student in America is not in school right now. And there might be remote learning, but we've even seen in Boston, I think a quarter, I don't have the statistic right in front of me, but about a quarter of students haven't logged into the remote learning at all.
And even when we went to remote learning, what was not really considered was that 1 out of every 3 Black students did not have access to a computer or the internet. So it's impossible to do remote learning when you don't have the resources to do that.
Right. And meanwhile, many of their parents were the ones going out, continuing to work in the grocery stores, in the hospitals, doing the essential work that keeps society functioning, the delivery drivers, and they couldn't be home. They didn't have the luxury, frankly, like I have, to be home with my kids. So this is a very major moment in our country right now, and people will be watching, and I just hope that all of us working together, are going to put a chart of course forward that's going to make things better. Going back, the goal of going back to March 1 or going back to February 1 or whatever artificial date before coronavirus you want to say is not going to work, because all of these issues, as we've been talking about now for almost an hour, we're here and we're very much an issue long before coronavirus.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Senator, it's always a pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for hanging out with us for this extended ride. And I guess we got a new way of doing this thing now, huh?
Yeah, this is easier actually, the video than calling. I just we'll just have to make sure I comb my hair.
Right. Don't be like Tracy. You got to get your hair combed. Give the folks the information of how to connect with you, how to get in touch.
Yep. And I just want to say to Leon, who I've worked with a lot, I'm sorry if there was a mix-up where we didn't get back to you, but the office number is 413-526-6501. Again, 413-526-6501. We're also on senatorlesser.com. There's a contact form there. Twitter @Eric Lesser, Instagram @Eric Lesser MA, Facebook, Facebook.com/Eric Lesser MA, and also email. Good old-fashioned email, eric.lesser@masenate.gov. Thank you, Bishop.
All right. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. 413-337-1867. We've been on for a while with Massachusetts Senator Eric Lesser, and kind of just discussing everything that has been going on. After Trump tweeted the threat of having the National Guard shoot protesters, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Then he says, and this is how you know the guy is full of cow dung. Then he says that that's not what he meant. He had never heard that it was this mayor who said it back in 1967. He didn't know, yada yada yada. But then right after that, he tweets out that if the protesters had breached the White House fence, they would have sicked very vicious dogs on them. Once again, bringing the images of Bull Connor and those who sick dogs on peaceful civil rights protesters. So this guy knew exactly what he was saying. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Bishop. How you doing today? Big supporter of your show. No hat on today. You look better with the hat. Hey,
as long as it's a Steelers hat.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I missed you Friday. I missed both you and Eric Lesser on Friday.
Okay.
We missed the mayor on Friday. We missed a lot of officials on Friday.
You talking about at the protest?
We told about the action that went on in front of the Springfield Police Department, which was very peaceful. Missed you. As we continue to fight for the right things in this city and moving forward, and some of the things that I've been involved in personally is breaking up the school to prison pipeline. The local leaders have yet to speak out on that. And then when we did have our chance, when you had our chance to change the MOU, which you're aware of, about the kids getting arrested in school and about the violence going on in the school systems, which is in our backyard, Bishop, and you're a supporter. But when it came time to get the MOU changed, when God rest his soul, one of the greatest leaders I've ever met in my life, Javette Robles, was alive, the entire school committee voted with the mayor, including Barbara and Denise Hurst and other people we thought were going to at least support changing things like the MOU and eliminated some of the juvenile prisons that are in Springfield. I mean, we never talk about that stuff because
because Eric Lesser doesn't want to talk about it, right?
He's no longer on right now, so he can't answer that question. But go ahead.
Ask him. We need to start. And the mayor, the mayor's having a press conference about the COVID-19 thing today. I mean, God bless him. He's another good guy. I mean, we all go to church on Sunday of one religion or another. I mean, how come we all can't sit down and put this together and stop it, end it?
Well, there definitely needs to be a collaborative effort coming together, a meeting of the minds, and formulating some solutions that is in the best interest of the residents of this city. I'm just not certain that everybody has the will to do that, and also that everybody is willing to come to some level of compromise. Unfortunately, we've always found resistance at the highest levels of our city government that basically are saying we're already doing everything right, and basically we really don't need your suggestions and your input. Hence, whenever we reach out in the middle of civil unrest to say, hey, how can we prevent this from happening in Springfield, we basically get told we already got it under control.
Yeah, you and I consider we're fighting the same fight. I mean, you take a look at Joe Biden. I mean, Biden was gonna pick Amy Klobuchar as his running mate. Imagine that.
I guess that got tanked when they found out that the same cop who put his knee on George Floyd's neck, she refused to prosecute him when he killed a Native American. That kind of sunk her battleship.
Right, and you know where she grew up at, right?
Yeah.
Whitetown, USA.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, believe it or not, Bishop, me and her grew up in the same community.
Wow.
Whitetown, USA. It's but obviously I'm not a politician. You know what I mean? Hey, put the hat on. You look better with it. You're a good man. Thanks for taking my call, Bishop.
All right, appreciate it.
Thanks.
413-337-1867. And so, he continues to bring out imagery from the 1960s. He quotes a 1967 racist police chief. Oh, I didn't know. Then he brings up imagery from Bull Connor from the 1960s, sicking police dogs on black people. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. He's feeding red meat to his base. All of this talk about they need to get tougher and all that, that's to his base. That's saying, basically, I'm not going to let these niggers get away with this. That's exactly what Trump is saying to folks. That's what the signal is to his base. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, you're on the air. Going once. Going twice.
So.
All right. 413-337-1867. Basically what he's saying is, hey, let me see. I need to make some of y'all moderators on my Periscope side. I'm going to pull it up on my other system here because I see there's this, who's this guy? Alan somebody or other. One of these white supremacists is on here talking about Team Hitler. This guy's a race baiter. I mean, these trolls are so childish. Y'all got nothing better to do than jump on social media and talk about yay Hitler. I mean, come on, man. Grow up, trolls. We're talking about serious business. The nation is on fire, and you guys are on here wilding out. Come on, Alan. Talk to me, Alan. Talk to me, Alan. I'm a race baiter. Come on, talk to me, man. You still on here? 413. I see we got the wrong number highlighted, so we're gonna put the right number on. We got and maybe Alan was calling that wrong number. Hopefully. Put a 227 instead of a 337. It's 413-337-1867. For those who want to get down and call into the program. Let's see, make that correction. There we go. There we go. Don't feed the trolls, they're telling me here on the scope. Don't feed the trolls. I guess he's gone now. I was hoping he would rear his ugly head. I was hoping he would rear his ugly head so I can block him. In any case, 413-337-1867. We'll continue to take your calls for a little while longer. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Caller, you're on.
Oh, hey, what's up? How do you feel about these protests?
I've been talking about it for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. Everything's getting destroyed by them.
Everything's getting destroyed by. Is this a troll call, or are you gonna make a point? I can always sense kind of when somebody's trolling me. Is there a point you want to make or question? That's exactly what I thought. I knew it was a troll. I can smell you, white supremacists. You stink. I can smell you coming through the phone, coward. Yeah, I've been doing this too long. Matter of fact, today, I'm glad that just reminded me. Today marks the 20th anniversary of me being on radio on the spoken word. We took over the first Monday in June of 2000, my sister and I. And so today is the 20-year anniversary of the spoken word. So I've been doing this too long for you guys to try to troll me and try to call and what do you think about this protest? Man, I can smell a troll a mile away, man. I can smell you white supremacists. You stink. Good morning, daughter.
Good morning, Father.
How you doing?
I'm all right. Hanging in there. How are you?
I'm good. They're out there wilding in your city.
Absolutely. They have gotten into pretty much every store, including the grocery store.
I've had to call around because I have my daughters all decide they want to move away, from home and stuff. So I've got a daughter in Chicago. I got a daughter in Atlanta. I got a daughter who's currently in Dallas. So I've had to make my calls to make sure my babies are all right. My daughters and my grandchildren, because of all the stuff that's going on across the nation. So what's happening, girl?
Nothing. I had to come on because that troll had to just disrupt my spirit this morning.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention because I've had the senator on for the last hour, and the way my setup is, I get all of the comments from all of the various platforms that pop up in one chat room, and until I scroll back through them, I didn't see it until I started scrolling back through and saw the troll. I see the trolls are, but you're normally on Facebook, right?
Yeah, no, I'm on Facebook. I was talking about the troll that called in.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, because I see a lot of trolls commenting on Periscope. So they've obviously come in from the Twitter side. And of course we get trolls on Facebook as well, but I normally have more viewers. Most of my viewers are on Facebook Live. We're still building our audience on our other platforms. So usually I don't have to worry about trolls on the Facebook side because the other viewers just kind of handle them. You know, they handle them, but the trolls run amok on Periscope. And then every now and then they decide that they want to call in, and I usually catch them within the first couple of seconds when they do call in. Like I just got that one because I can pretty much tell who they are because they normally have a pattern. They have a pattern of how they call. They try to set it up and pretend like they actually are engaged in the conversation. Like, yeah, so what do you think of these protests? And that's right before they blurt out nigger or something stupid like that. So I've done this too long, and they can't fool me. So where my grandbabies at? Too long, and they can't prove it.
Yeah, but no, there people need to realize that there's a difference between a protester and a rioter.
Yeah, and there are a lot of infiltrators out
Absolutely.
there. There are a lot of people out there who are not who don't really care about the issue.
Absolutely.
That are trying to taint the protest, and because they want white folks to be able to go away from this and say, see what those niggers are doing. That's not a protest. But see, here's my thing. My thing is this, and I understand there are many people out there that are not part of any organized protests, that are out there to be incendiary, to cause ruckus and chaos and pandemonium. But at the same time, I also understand that when black people peacefully protest, white folks still don't hear us. They still view us as thugs and hoodlums and unpatriotic, like they did with Colin Kaepernick and those. So it doesn't matter whether we're busting buildings down or whether we're just quietly taking a knee. They see us the same exact way. And that's
exactly.
Go ahead.
We're never going to change their minds on how they see us, ever. And I have come to that realization, so I don't care anymore. You can say what you want. That's not the truth about me. God didn't make me that way, and you can go on about your business, and I'm going to go on about mine. Somebody
said there's too much background noise with this caller. Those are my grandbabies. You better back off.
Yeah, no. Keep your mouth closed, because those are my children, and my children are welcome in here anytime.
Where are my grandbabies? I know this is unorthodox, but let me holler at them since you're on the air.
Well, I only have Tora in here at the moment. Say hi, Papa.
Hi, Papa.
Hey, Katura. How you doing, baby girl?
Good.
All right. Papa loves you.
Love you too.
All right. All right, sweetie. Don't sweat the small stuff. This is my defender daughter. She defends me against all the trolls and all of that kind of stuff. So y'all don't be upsetting my baby girl, my oldest daughter, but still my baby girl.
Yep. Absolutely. Always have, always will. I'm the guard dog.
All right, sweetie. Love you.
All right. I love you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
413-337-1867. 413-337-1867. There's something coming up on Thursday that I need you guys to hear about. I'm trying to get Tara Parrish from the Pioneer Valley Project on the air. We'll see if we can get her on. Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Father.
Oh, I got a second daughter in a row calling in. Man, this must be a good day, huh?
I was trying to get Whitney to merge me onto her call, but she couldn't. But I just wanted to make point to all of the listeners, and especially those who are protesting or who are, posting on social media, to just let your contribution be more than just a protest and more than just a social media post. We have to actually get out here and make some changes, some real changes with policies and with laws, and with supporting our Black businesses so that we can actually take the Black dollar back into the Black community. We have to do much more than just let it be words. We have to actually make some real change.
Absolutely. Sound like you've been listening to your daddy. So, in the meantime, since you're on the air, why don't you tell them about the event on Saturday?
Yeah, so there's going to be a protest Saturday. It's going to be at 10:30. It's going to start at Court Square. It's actually going to be a march. It's going to be a peaceful prayer and protest march to stop violence and police brutality. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. and we're going to march down to the police station. So we want to get people to just come together and, let's make some change in the community. And, in the minority community, especially because, we're really suffering and the systematic racism has to stop.
Absolutely. And since I did it with Whitney, you got to let me holler at my grandbaby since you called in.
Well, she just woke up, so let me see if she'll say hi. Say good morning, Papa.
Good morning, Papa.
Hey there, Nomi. How you doing, baby girl? You sleepy, huh?
Okay.
Love you. She where's the older one?
Oh, well, she's still asleep.
Oh, she's still asleep. Okay. So, they came down and took over the man cave for a little bit yesterday.
I bet they did.
I purchased, since we've been on lockdown on the pandemic, I remodeled my man cave. I painted, did all these things. I got 2 new massaging recliners, all that kind of stuff. And so they came down, and there's 3 chairs. There's the 2 recliners, and then there's another chair. They jumped in the reclining chairs with the massagers. And I had to sit in the other chair that didn't recline and didn't massage, and to flip the TV on, and just kind of took over the man cave. It became the grandkid cave for a while.
Aw.
Yeah. All right, baby girl. Love you much.
Love you too. Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye. All right. See if I can get if I can get this information to you about Thursday. There's going to be a digital town hall on Thursday, and you all can participate as part of that, and definitely want to get you on to let your voice be heard. A lot going on, and I know there's a lot of physical protests that are happening, but there's a number of people who are still concerned, as we all should be, because there is still a pandemic out there. And so for those of you who are out there on the streets protesting, remember, we're still in the middle of a deadly pandemic where over 105,000 people have died. And people are still contracting the virus, and people are still dying of COVID-19. And so, you've got to be careful. You got to be careful. I've seen so many people out there who really haven't taken the necessary precautions. They're not wearing masks. They're in close proximity to others. They're chanting, and all of that. And while I feel the passion of the moment, and I completely get it, we've got to Remember, we're the ones dying. 58% of those that are dying of COVID-19 are black people. That's the reality. I'm going to refresh this call, trying to get a call in from one of our organizers. And let me see, I may have to call her because she's obviously having trouble calling me. So let me see if I can get her in on the line to talk about Thursday. There we go. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Bishop.
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Just trying to keep these looters out of the area.
What'd you say?
Bad over here. Just trying to keep the looters out of my area. It's getting bad over here.
What area is that?
Chi-Town.
Okay. What part of Chi-Town?
The busting in buildings, destroying everything, starting fires. People want to bring back segregation and lynching.
You said they want to bring back segregation and lynching?
Yeah.
Well, we definitely don't want that to happen. That's not going to happen. There's going to be a whole lot more looting and burning if they try to bring that back. All right. Appreciate the call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop. How you doing? This is Mike calling from Atlanta.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing well.
Yeah, Bishop, I was just listening to, and you had me over here cracking up this morning where you talk about the trolls because they are a bunch of cowards.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. Here's my thing. If you don't agree with me, if you think I'm a race baiter and all that kind of stuff, and you have a difference of opinion, call me and say, "Hey, man, this is Talbert. I don't agree with you, and let's talk." Don't be a punk and call and say something slick and hang up the phone.
What I learned from them, though, one of their main weapons of choice is projection. So because they're racist, the first thing they want to say is, "Oh, you're racist." No, I'm just telling the truth. I'm not racist. You're racist, so you're projecting your behavior onto me to attack me. That's all they have.
Right.
And I'm so glad your daughter. I was listening to I think you said your oldest daughter that called in first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so funny. The conversation that she had with you sounds exactly like a conversation I had last night with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And she was just on the verge of tears trying to rationalize why these people hate us so much. And your daughter said the same thing or something similar to what I said. I said, look, you cannot try to rationalize the irrational.
Mm-hmm.
Let these people feel the way they want to feel about you because nothing you do is going to change that. You know, Colin Kaepernick protested peacefully.
Right.
They had a problem with that.
Right.
They were calling him a traitor, disrespectful, un-American.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you had a problem with that. So now when these riots start, even though all of these people that are out here rioting are not the protesters and they're not protesting for the same reasons that the news media is portraying them to protest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people are just opportunists.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, they identified one of them.
They
identified one of them in Minneapolis as a police officer who was going around with busting out windows and stuff. And they got him on film.
Yes, sir. And see, that's what I was telling a friend of mine too. Also, I said, when you're a student of history, one thing about the devil and evil is that they're not original. Mm-hmm. So they follow the same game plan through decades, through centuries even.
It's the same script.
It reminds me of the FBI and COINTELPRO, where they plant these people into these different movements to start to start different things, like to start a riot or whatever, to justify the use of force.
Well, you know, we have a modern day COINTELPRO. For those of you who don't know what that is, that was the counterintelligence program of the FBI, started by and maintained by J. Edgar Hoover, which spied on and infiltrated black organizations, spied on MLK and Malcolm X and so many others, the Black Panthers, so on and so forth. When Trump came into office, his Department of Justice under Jeff Sessions decided, even though all of the evidence said the biggest threat in America was white nationalists, they decided to make up a term called Black Identity Extremists. That had never existed before Trump's administration. And that was their rationale, to be able to spy on, infiltrate black organizations again, just like COINTELPRO. So that's happening right now under this administration.
Exactly. And you know what? And I'm glad you brought up Trump, because I wish people would call this guy out for what he is. Trump is nothing but a piece of sugar honey iced tea, a racist piece of sugar honey iced tea. And we need to call him out for what he is. That's what he is. You alluded to it earlier. Well, you didn't allude to it. You said it earlier. What he likes to do is he likes to throw out these dog whistles to his supporters. Like he did when he said these thugs are out here rioting, and when the looting starts, the shooting starts. And then when he's called out on it, you know, he's pressed on it. He likes to throw his hands up in the air like, what? I didn't know that. That's not what I meant.
Pretend he didn't mean that and didn't know that. Come on, man. We know exactly what you meant.
Right. So don't feed the trolls though, Bishop. Like somebody else told you earlier. Let us handle them for you.
Absolutely.
I deal with them on a daily basis, online, and I just kill them with facts. So when you kill them with the facts, they don't have anything left for insults, either insults or accusations. So they'll go to either the insults, or they'll call you a racist or a race baiter, or both.
Yeah.
So don't even give them that energy.
All right. Appreciate your call.
Yeah. All right.
Don't feed the trolls. Sometimes it's so tempting, though. It's almost cathartic to see how angry they get when they have to deal with an educated, articulate black man that they can't handle. And they have to tuck tail and run, or hang up the phone, or say something crazy because they just can't do it, can't handle it. All right, we got you on. Good morning.
That's right. Good morning. How are you?
You sounded like Tracy Whitfield. I tried to get her to come on side by side video with the Senator Lester. She said I didn't do my hair yet. And
things happen when there's a toddler around.
Well, and I'm looking at this like, so this is Tara Parrish from Pioneer Valley Project. And so I was trying to get her to come on video as well to talk about this thing that's happening on Thursday. And of course, she was indisposed as well. And I'm like, it's like 11 o'clock. What are you sisters doing this late? Don't y'all get up in the morning?
Yes, we get up and we start working early, and then the phone starts ringing, and then there's a toddler.
I get it.
Just one thing after another.
I got it. All right. Good morning.
Yeah.
Holla at us. Tell us what's happening on Thursday.
So on Thursday, obviously the largest conversation happening in this country right now is around the issue of police misconduct and the unfortunate events and murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And I think a lot of folks in communities across the country are looking at the relationship between police department and communities of color, and having a lot of concern about what is it going to take for communities to, in fact, have trust in the police department that's supposed to protect and serve all residents in any community. And so we want to bring folks together from our city and directly engage with our police commissioner and our mayor around this issue, because we have some work to do here in Springfield. And we are dealing with a police department that has a well-established pattern of police misconduct that has cost taxpayers millions of dollars in the form of legal settlements. We're also under investigation. Our police department's under investigation currently by the U.S. Department of Justice around alleged use of excessive force by the narcotics unit. And I think what's been in the news cycle, at least a lot of folks have seen it, of a supposed police shortage that brought our commissioner to the decision that she should bring back 5 officers who have been indicted for covering up fellow officers in an incident in 2015 at Nathan Bill's restaurant and the physical assault of several men of color in front of that restaurant. So we've got some work to do in Springfield. The community, needs to be engaged in this. There needs to be accountability. There is no accountability right now external to the police department. They police themselves, which is extremely problematic. We're also in a city that used to have a civilian police commission that went by the wayside. Our city council weighed in, passed legislation again, most recently in 2018. And so as it stands right now, our mayor refuses to enact legislation passed by our legislative body. And so we think that now is a really important time to have this conversation and talk very plainly about what community needs from the police department, so that every single person who lives here in Springfield can know that they can trust law enforcement.
All right. So once again, details. I want to get down. I want my voice to be heard. How do I get in on this conversation?
So if you want to join in, obviously it's impossible to do physical, in-person, large gatherings right now, but our hope is that we're going to gather hundreds of residents from Springfield virtually. And in order to join the conversation, you can just text your name to 413-214-5100, and you can get the link for Thursday's meeting from there. You can also send an email, Tara, T-A-R-A, at pioneervalleyproject.org. You can send me the link that way. All right. So before you get off, tell them a little bit about Pioneer Valley Project, those that aren't familiar with it. What do you guys do, and how can people connect with you? So Pioneer Valley Project is a grassroots community organization comprised of individuals and institutions like congregations and labor unions and other community groups. And basically we strengthen and support the grassroots leadership of people right here in our community so that regular folks can have a say in the political and economic decisions that affect their lives. So we train leaders because we believe that all of us in this community have a voice and it needs to be heard. And we build collective power to create systemic change. Things like on criminal justice reform, on minimum wage, on immigration, on education justice. So we're a multi-issue organization, and we basically mount campaigns related to what our members in the community tell us is most pressing right now. And our members agree that this issue of police accountability is the most pressing issue that we face right now.
All right. How do they get in touch with you? How do they connect with PVC?
So you can go to the website. I think the most updated way to get in touch is through Facebook. So just look up Pioneer Valley Project on Facebook or PVP Springfield on Twitter, and get involved there.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you calling in. Next time you'll be all ready and ready to go on video. Early in the morning.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let me see. Time check. All right. 11:07. Here in the field. 413-337-1867. 413-337-1867. So there's a real lack of leadership in this nation. We cannot depend on those at the top, um, for any real sense of direction. They're throwing gasoline on the fire, um, making matters worse. This nation is in a mess right now, ladies and gentlemen. And so that tells us even more so than ever, we need to be prepared to vote. Vote. Question that came up with me from some young folks. I did several forums over this past week, but the question about voting came up, and people are feeling, we don't really have a choice. Both the Democrat and Republican nominees are not worth my vote, so on and so forth. But I always remind folks, all politics are local. You've got city councilors and school committee persons and governors, counselors, and you got all kinds of district attorneys. You've got all kinds of other offices that affect your day-to-day life all the time. And we've got to get in the habit of not just waiting every 4 years to vote, but we've got to vote every election and in every race, our municipal races, our statewide races. Not just wait until there's a presidential election. Whether the potholes on your street get fixed has to do with the person who's occupying a city hall in your city or town. Whether it's a town manager or a mayor or whatever, there's a Department of Public Works that takes directives from him. And so there are all kinds of elections that are important, and you can't just sit on the sideline and complain about everything and not be engaged in the process. But of course, this presidential election is important. Once again, I ask the question to you Trump trolls that are traversing my social media right now. 105,000 are dead from COVID-19. 40 million people are out of work. Okay. 18% unemployment, the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression. Is Trump done making America great again? Is this making America great? This is on his watch. Can't blame anybody. You can't blame anybody 3.5 years into your administration. Can't do that anymore. You cannot take over a job. I don't care what the job is. You cannot take over a job and 3.5 years into the job still be blaming the guy or the lady who had the job before you. Too late for that. You own everything at this point. They were trying to blame Obama for their response to the pandemic, to the fact that the stockpile of personal protective equipment hadn't been replenished. You had 3.5 years to replenish it. Everything that negative happens, they want to blame the guy from before, but then everything positive happens, they want to take credit for it. No, you own everything. You own this 18% unemployment. You own every one of the 105,000 deaths because of your inept, incompetent response to the coronavirus pandemic. You own the unemployment rate. You own the 40 million jobs that are lost. You own the riots in the streets. You own it. And if this is making America great, man, boy, I'd rather go back to what America was before you got there. For real, for real. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let me see what y'all are saying out here. I always do a little segment of highlighting some of your comments. Local elections. Big numbers are only for governor and president. Yeah, we need to focus on local elections. Those are extremely important. Always been appalled by the low numbers. I know you're right. I know you're right. No, unless I really get divinely inspired, I won't consider running for office. I'm a preacher, and I think I'm most effective as a preacher and a community activist than I would be in elected office. I think not only am I more effective, I think my tenure of being able to influence what goes on in my community is longer. Because normally, when elected officials, once they're out of office, unless they're extremely active afterwards, their influence pretty much goes away. And so I think I'll remain on the outside and try to influence it in the way that I've done for the last 30 years. Let's see. Community of color is under threat. Absolutely. Always and forever. Always under threat. Let's see. I've got a video with 4 people in Seattle destroying property. Yep. It's happening all over America. Infiltrators and perpetrators, provocateurs. As long as we can't stop them, COINTELPRO will just keep coming. Yep. Yep. They don't call it COINTELPRO, but it's happening. It's happening, right? I have no doubt right now that I'm on some FBI list under surveillance. I have no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Proud Boys, undercover cops, and they've all infiltrated. They are part of law enforcement right now. Yep. The cop had the hammer in Minneapolis. Y'all saw the video. He had the hammer and was going around busting windows. It's happening. I'm still at a point where I say, fellow pasty folks just need to, wow. Woo. Okay, I'm going to leave that one alone. Yes, Chicago is already segregated, as are still most cities and towns across America, believe it or not. They are still segregated. What will be the economic plan of the black man and woman going forward? I don't know that we have one. What I do know is our gross national product, the amount of money that we spend collectively um, um, is higher than most other nations. Peep that. It's higher than than whole countries. What black people in America spend collectively is higher than what most other nations do. So that tells you the strength of our dollar, of our money. If we were ever able to pool it, direct it, it could be very powerful. Remember, as much as you all, current generation, talks about the strategies of the civil rights movement being antiquated and no longer relevant, you can learn a lot from them. The Montgomery bus boycott, 381 days they stayed off the buses because of the disrespect putting black folk on the back of the bus. Do you know how we got to the front of the bus? It wasn't that the bus company all of a sudden got a change of heart and became altruistic and said, you know what, you're right, black people, you're human too. Come on and sit anywhere you like. No, they boycotted them. They snatched their dollars away from the bus company. They would not ride on the bus for over a year. They crippled them economically. And then they said, you know what, come on back. Y'all can sit where y'all want. Because if we don't let y'all back on this bus, we're going to go out of business. That's how that happened. That was the power of the black dollar. Okay? And if we ever learned the power of the dollar or learned how to use it, we'd be dangerous. We would be dangerous. If this is making America great, better off bringing the Titanic to the surface and sinking on it again. Yeah. Right now, America is the Titanic, and it's sinking fast, brothers and sisters. It is sinking fast. Just take a look outside your window. Take a look outside your window. It is sinking fast. Let me see. Somebody's telling me a message here. Yes, our dollar is powerful. Same thing happened in Pittsburgh. White boy smashed up police cruiser and set it ablaze. Yeah, and they probably blamed the protesters. And so, yeah, a lot of this stuff is happening because there are provocateurs out there trying to make the protests look bad, trying to deflect from the real issue of the murder of George Floyd. We know exactly what's happening out there. So listen, here's what we're going to do. I want you to remember Thursday. I'll be putting something up on my social media about that soon. So I want you to engage in that digital town hall on Thursday. The protest on Saturday, I'll put something up about that as well. I want you to remember our Wednesday night virtual Bible study, and then our Sunday morning worship service. Now, today, once again, for those of you who missed me talking about it earlier, marks the 20th anniversary of me doing radio. We started the spoken word radio broadcast on the first Monday in June, the year 2000. And my late sister, Rhonda Swan, and I started out together before she moved out of the area. And then I took over the program. One of the projects that she put out while we were on was speaking my mind in poetic verse. Speaking my mind in poetic verse. It was a project, a book of poetry, and then um, she did a number of audio tapings of her poetry, and we've now got a lot of that out in the atmosphere, and you can check on Spotify, anywhere you stream music, to check her stuff out. And so I think there would be no fitting better way to close out the program, playing one of her signature pieces. It's called "I Like What I See." Um, she passed away in December of 2015, but she was one of the original hosts of the spoken word radio broadcast. So on this day of the 20th anniversary, I want to remember Rhonda, and celebrate the times we had together on the air. I remember so often she was a journalist here. She was the first ever black editor of our local newspaper. There's never been another black editor since she left. Um, and when she came back in her later years, when she was fighting cancer, um, and she was writing a column for them. And just like the trolls troll me now, it's like every time the name Bishop Talbert Swan appears on Mass Live, which is the internet presence of our local newspaper, all the trolls come out on the story, and all kinds of crazy comments and stuff. It just drives them crazy whenever they see my name. They would do the same thing to my sister's articles, because she would write about race relations and those types of things, politics and all of that, and they would hate to see an article from Rhonda coming out, and the trolls would come out, and on Mass Live they would rate the articles, based on the most activity, comments, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember one of the last text messages I sent to her was a screenshot, where there was an article that I was in, and a column that she had wrote that were ranking number 1 and number 2 in terms of engagement on Mass Live. And so I want to play this, and then the original theme that we had when we started the spoken word. I played it this morning. I'll play it as we go out. I've gone back to the original theme in honor of the 20 years on radio, and couldn't do it without you guys, without this wonderful listening audience, and folks that engage with us all of the time. So let me play Rhonda, and then I'm out of here. And until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from and hidden, but it just made me stronger, and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down there. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me, and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. She's looking good. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.